What really happened to Angelina Jordan? The silent evolution of a child prodigy. When people first heard the voice of Angelina Jordan, many thought they were listening to an old jazz recording. The tone was smoky, mature, emotional. It sounded like the voice of someone who had lived decades. But when the camera revealed the singer, audiences around the world were stunned. The voice belonged to a little girl. Angelina Jordan was only 8 years old when she stepped onto the stage of Norway's Got Talent. She walked out barefoot, calm and confident, and began to sing a jazz classic with a depth that few adults could match. Within minutes, the judges were speechless. The audience was silent. And when the performance ended, something extraordinary had happened. A child prodigy had just been introduced to the world. From that moment forward, Angelina's life would never be ordinary again. But the story people remember most is only the beginning. What happened after that viral fame is a much deeper and more complex journey. A journey filled with expectations, growth, quiet strategy, and one of the most unusual transitions from child star to mature artist. To understand what really happened to Angelina Jordan, we have to go back to the very beginning. Angelina was born in Oslo, Norway, into a multicultural family with a strong appreciation for music and art. Her upbringing exposed her to different cultural influences, which would later shape her musical taste. But what made her unique was not simply that she loved music. It was the kind of music she loved. Most children her age were listening to contemporary pop songs or children's music. Angelina, however, was fascinated by classic jazz and blues. She listened to artists whose recordings were decades older than she was. Names like Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald became some of her earliest inspirations. For a young child to connect emotionally with music from another era was already unusual. But the real surprise came when she began singing those songs herself. Her voice carried a tone and phrasing style rarely heard in children. Instead of imitating pop singers, she approached songs like a seasoned jazz vocalist. Her phrasing was slow and deliberate. Her vibrato was controlled. And her emotional interpretation felt authentic rather than rehearsed. This combination created something magical. Soon, videos of Angelina performing began appearing online. Audiences across the internet were fascinated by the contrast between her young appearance and her mature vocal style. But the moment that changed everything was her appearance on Norway's Got Talent. The performance that night did more than impress the judges. It introduced a narrative that would follow her for years, the barefoot child with the voice of an old soul. The barefoot detail was not just a stage gimmick. According to her story, Angelina had once met a young girl who was poor and barefoot. That encounter affected her deeply. She promised that when she performed, she would do so barefoot as a way of remembering the experience and showing empathy for people less fortunate. That small gesture became a powerful symbol. Audiences didn't just see a talented child. They saw humility, kindness, and emotional depth. After winning the competition, Angelina quickly became one of the most talked about young singers in the world. Videos of her performances spread across YouTube, social media platforms, and international news outlets. Millions of viewers discovered her voice for the first time. Many of those viewers had the same reaction. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. The performances were not flashy. She didn't rely on huge vocal runs or dramatic stage movements. Instead, she stood calmly, delivered the song with sincerity, and allowed the emotion of the music to speak for itself. This restraint became one of her defining qualities. But as Angelina's fame grew, so did the expectations. Child prodigies often face a difficult challenge. The very thing that makes them famous early in life can also create enormous pressure later. When audiences witness extraordinary talent at such a young age, they begin to expect constant miracles. Every performance is compared to the previous one. Every new appearance must somehow recreate the same shock that the world felt during the first discovery. But the truth is that no artist can live forever inside their first viral moment. Artists grow. Voices change. Personalities evolve. And Angelina Jordan was no exception. As she entered her teenage years, her voice naturally matured. The tone deepened slightly. The emotional delivery became more intentional. Instead of sounding like a mysterious prodigy, she began sounding like a developing artist. For some listeners, this change was fascinating. It showed that her talent was not simply a childhood novelty. For others, however, the change was confusing. Many people wanted the child prodigy to remain frozen in time. They wanted the same voice, the same surprise, the same innocence. But growth does not work that way. One of the most important turning points in Angelina's career came when she appeared on America's Got Talent, The Champions. By this time, she was no longer an unknown child singer. She was already recognized by millions of viewers online. But the stage of America's Got Talent gave her a chance to reintroduce herself to a global audience. Her performance there once again captured international attention. What made it powerful was not just the singing. It was the confidence, the maturity, the calm control she displayed on stage. The world could see that the little girl from Norway had grown into a young artist with a clear musical identity. But fame in the modern music industry is complicated. Going viral on television or social media does not automatically guarantee a long-term mainstream career. Behind the scenes, there are contracts, record labels, management decisions, marketing strategies, and timing considerations. All of these factors shape the path of an artist. At one point in her journey, Angelina attracted the attention of legendary music producer Quincy Jones. This was a significant moment. Quincy Jones is known for working with some of the most influential musicians in history, including Michael Jackson. His recognition of Angelina's talent suggested that industry insiders saw something special in her future potential. Angelina eventually signed a deal with Republic Records, one of the major labels in the music industry. But instead of releasing endless mainstream singles, her career moved in a quieter direction. This is where many fans began asking questions. Why wasn't she everywhere? Why weren't her songs dominating radio stations? Why did it seem like such a powerful voice was moving slowly? The answer may lie in strategy. Not every artist benefits from constant exposure. Some careers are built carefully over time, focusing on artistic development rather than instant chart success. Angelina's style of music, influenced by jazz, blues, and classic vocal traditions, does not always follow the same path as modern pop artists. Her songs are often emotional, atmospheric, and reflective rather than built for quick viral trends. This approach may take longer to reach massive audiences, but it can also create something more valuable: longevity. Today, Angelina Jordan stands at an interesting point in her career. She is no longer the 8-year-old prodigy who shocked the judges on a talent show. But she is also not yet fully defined by a single mainstream era. Instead, she is in the middle of an artistic transition. Her voice continues to mature. Her songwriting has become more personal. Her stage presence shows confidence and emotional depth. The next phase of her journey may reveal a completely new side of her artistry. And that is what makes her story so intriguing. Because sometimes the quiet years in an artist's career are not a sign of decline. They are a period of preparation. Preparation for the moment when everything comes together: the voice, the music, the identity, and the timing. Angelina Jordan's story is far from finished. In many ways, the world has only seen the introduction. The real question now is not what happened to the child prodigy. The real question is what will happen when that prodigy fully steps into adulthood as an artist. And if her early performances were any indication, the answer might be something extraordinary. Angelina's fanbase spans age groups. Parents and grandparents appreciate her tone. Younger listeners are drawn by her uniqueness. That multi-generational appeal creates stability. Pop stardom can be explosive, but it can also be age-restricted. By refusing to narrow her identity, she maintains broader demographic reach. There is also artistic satisfaction to consider. Some artists thrive on commercial experimentation. Others thrive on emotional authenticity. If an artist feels disconnected from their output, long-term burnout becomes likely. Remaining aligned with personal musical taste preserves passion. Passion sustains longevity. When artists chase trends they don't genuinely connect with, the disconnect eventually shows. Critics sometimes argue that refusing pop reduces mainstream visibility. That may be true in the short term. But mainstream visibility is not the only measure of success. Artistic respect, catalog durability, and sustained touring ability often outlast chart spikes. History shows that many artists who resisted mainstream pressure built careers spanning decades precisely because they protected their core sound. Another important aspect is vocal preservation. Pop performance styles can demand constant high-energy belting and intense touring schedules. Jazz and soul, while still demanding, often allow for more dynamic variation and interpretative flexibility. Protecting vocal health at a young age is crucial. Choosing repertoire that aligns naturally with vocal texture rather than forcing range expansion prematurely is a strategic long-term move. There is also the narrative factor. The music industry thrives on storytelling. An artist who refuses conformity creates intrigue. Audiences become curious. Why doesn't she follow trends? Why does she choose older songs? Why maintain barefoot symbolism? These questions sustain engagement. Predictability reduces intrigue. Distinction enhances it. Refusing to be a typical pop star does not mean rejecting growth. It means defining growth differently. Instead of chasing viral moments, growth may come through deeper songwriting, cinematic production expansion, orchestral collaborations, or carefully curated live experiences. It may involve gradual artistic layering rather than dramatic rebranding. Ultimately, the decision not to conform is both artistic and strategic. It protects identity. It cultivates loyal audiences. It builds long-term positioning rather than short-term spikes. In an era where many artists compete for immediate attention, choosing timelessness can be the boldest move of all. Angelina Jordan's refusal to become a typical pop star is not resistance out of fear. It appears to be resistance out of clarity. She seems to understand that her strength lies not in matching the moment, but in transcending it. Trends fade. Authentic voices endure. And in the long run, endurance defines legacy far more than temporary dominance ever could. And that is where the real turning point in Angelina Jordan's journey begins. After stunning the world with her unforgettable audition on America's Got Talent, The Champions, Angelina was no longer just the barefoot girl from Norway. She became a global talking point. Industry executives, vocal coaches, producers, and serious music critics began analyzing her voice not as a talent show act, but as a legitimate recording artist with long-term potential. But here is what many people didn't see. Behind the applause, behind the viral views, behind the standing ovations, there was strategy. There was patience. And there was a quiet understanding that rushing her career could damage something rare. Angelina did not chase mainstream pop trends. She did not suddenly pivot to radio-friendly dance tracks. Instead, she leaned deeper into her identity, the jazz, blues, soul, and emotionally rich ballads. That decision alone separated her from most young artists of her generation. When she signed with Republic Records, it marked a significant milestone. Republic Records is not a small independent label experimenting with unknowns. It is home to some of the biggest global stars. Signing with them signaled that powerful industry players believed in her long-term artistic value. Now let's talk about vocal development. As Angelina matured, something subtle but powerful happened to her voice. The childlike brightness softened. The lower register became richer. The vibrato gained control and emotional precision. Her phrasing became even more deliberate. She began singing not just with instinct, but with technical mastery layered onto instinct. That evolution is critical. Many child prodigies struggle during vocal transition years. Their voices change. Their range shifts. Their control fluctuates. Some lose the very quality that made them special. Angelina, however, navigated that transition with remarkable stability. That is not accidental. That is discipline. And discipline is something rarely discussed in her story. While many artists her age were focused on visibility and social media dominance, Angelina focused on musicianship. Live instrumentation. Classic arrangements. Respect for legacy artists. You can hear influences of Billie Holiday, Etta James, and other golden-era vocalists woven into her tone choices and interpretative decisions, without imitation. That balance is extremely difficult to achieve. Now here is a deeper question people are starting to ask. Can Angelina Jordan become a timeless artist? Not just viral. Not just admired. But timeless. Timeless artists share certain traits. They understand emotional storytelling. They resist trends. They allow silence in their music. They are comfortable with restraint. And they choose songs that mean something beyond commercial success. Angelina checks those boxes. But the modern music industry is aggressive. Algorithms reward speed. Streaming culture rewards quantity. The pressure to release constant content is real. So the strategic challenge for her team is this: how do you protect artistry in an industry that rewards noise? And this is why her slower, deliberate approach may actually be her greatest advantage. Instead of flooding the market, she builds anticipation. Instead of overexposure, she maintains mystique. Instead of chasing every collaboration, she chooses carefully. That restraint builds longevity. Now let's talk about her audience. What makes Angelina unique is the age span of her fans. Children are mesmerized by her story. Teenagers connect to her individuality. Adults admire her maturity. And older jazz listeners respect her musical sensibility. Very few artists bridge generational gaps like that. It is not just talent. It is emotional intelligence. And as she steps further into adulthood, a new chapter is forming. This chapter is no longer about proving she is gifted. That has already been established. The next chapter is about defining her artistic voice in original music, not just covers. Original music will be the real test. Covers reveal interpretation. Original songs reveal identity. When that catalog expands, we will see the full architecture of who Angelina Jordan truly is as an artist. So the bigger picture becomes clear. She is no longer the barefoot child singing jazz standards. She is a developing global artist navigating transition with rare composure. She is a vocalist balancing nostalgia and modernity. And she is a case study in how patience may outperform hype. The world is watching, not for another viral moment, but for permanence. And permanence requires evolution. So the real question is not whether Angelina Jordan is talented. That conversation is over. The real question is, what kind of legacy is she building? And that answer is still unfolding. And also, if you enjoy this video, please subscribe and comment for more videos, and please share the video. Thanks for watching. See you in another next video. Peace out.